Hello, church. Today's passage is Proverbs 23, verses 20 through 21. It says, "Be not among drunkards or among gluttonous eaters of meat, for the drunkard and the glutton will come to poverty, and slumber will clothe them with rags." It's an interesting passage. It says that if you indulge in something, and the two specific examples here are alcohol and food, you will come to poverty. You will become broke and poor, indebted. And slumber, meaning just laziness and sleepiness, it will clothe you with rags. That means you will just be overcome with laziness and a lack of motivation. It's interesting because nowadays, we probably have more things to indulge in than ever before. Whereas in the past, it might have been primarily alcohol and primarily food. Nowadays, we have so much more. Some modern day indulgences include phones. I know that this is a struggle for many people. This was a struggle for me. Just being glued to your phone, just always checking, just always doing something on your phone. Indulgence is when you spend an inappropriate amount of time, energy, resources on something that you shouldn't. Phone, or watching a lot of TV, too much TV, or just even YouTubing or gaming or some kind of sports, whether watching or participating or fishing, hobbies like that. All those things can be great, and all those things can be good and can be used to glorify God, and can use sports to stay physically fit and all of these things. But if you indulge in them, meaning you place too much time and energy, or you consume them too much disproportionately, it will begin to throw your life off of balance. That's what happens when we take the good gifts of God, we overemphasize them, we overconsume them, overindulge in them, and instead of accepting them with gratefulness to God for the glory of God, and using them to strengthen us, to boost us for God, to help us, we begin to turn inwardly, we begin to be consumeristic, and we begin to break down that God-given order for our life, and then the negative consequences in our life begin to set in. And the primary consequence that the proverb here is talking about is poverty. And what's interesting is I was thinking about this passage, I realized that just looking at this nowadays is not only will indulging in something result in physical poverty, but first and foremost, it will actually result in spiritual poverty. When you're indulging in something, whether it be your phone, TV, YouTube, alcohol, food, you name it, you will first and foremost distance yourself from God because of the sin of indulging in something. You will distance yourself with your sin from God. So you're making yourself spiritually poor already just by that one fact alone. The second thing is you will have less time to focus on God because you're busy being on your phone, because your phone is eating up 2, 3, 4, 5 hours of your day, because the TV or YouTube, whatever it is busy taking up your time. So you just have less time to be with God. And so your spiritual poverty begins to take effect. And the third thing that contributes to spiritual poverty is not only will you distance yourself with God through the sin of indulgence, not only will you have less time to be with God, but you will have less desire to focus on God. It says that the glutton that slumber will clothe them with rags. That means the glutton and the drunkard, they become lazy. They lose motivation. They don't want to do anything. They lose motivation to work, to get up and work hard. They come late to work. They leave early. It's the same thing in the spiritual world. When we begin to indulge, not only do we have less time, but we also have less desire. We have less motivation. When you overeat, you become lazy. When you overeat, you don't get up and say, I want to go work. You say, I just want to take a nap. I don't want to work right now. And it's the same thing that happens in the spiritual world. When we overindulge, we lose that motivation. We lose that drive to go and seek after God. And instead we say, I just want to take a spiritual nap. I just want to relax spiritually. And we all know what happens when we fall asleep spiritually. Nothing good. And so, but not only is it spiritual poverty that comes from indulgence, but also physical poverty. And that becomes obvious a bit later, but it will also set in. It's hard to notice at first, but after these patterns of indulgence, these patterns of sin, the physical signs will become very obvious. It could be anything from high debt to living constantly paycheck to paycheck and the like. Those things will result in spiritual and physical poverty, and may God help us and protect us from abusing His great gifts to our own hurt and not to the glory of God. May God bless us and help us. Amen.